Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and it is really late. It's about 2 a.m. I'm doing a late night wuxia review of the sequel to the Temple of the Red Lotus called The Twin Swords. I just saw it. It was my first time watching it. I was impressed with the first one, so I went and I got. There's three movies in total, so I got the other two movies. And I have to say, this one, Twin Swords, starring Ivy Ling Po, Jimmy Wang Yu, Ching Ping, and Tien Feng is really good. It's the same cast as before. As far as I could tell, everybody from the first one is in this one. There might be one or two people that they change, but it's pretty much the same cast. They pick up right where they left off. So Jimmy Wang Yu and Ching Ping are, have just finished, decimating the temple that they were in, and now they're going to set off back to the Gan family, the family estate. And Jimmy Wang Yu plays a character named Gui Wu, and Qing Ping plays the Gan's daughter. So and I think her name is Lian Shu, something like that. Let me look that up. Yeah, Lian Shu. And so they're on their way back to the Gan family manor, and the rest of Temple of the Red Lotus are back at their real headquarters, and they decide to lay a trap for the whole Gan family by luring in the heroic couple, capturing them, and then getting the rest of the family to come in to save them. And so they basically set up an ambush where there's a bunch of women that actually work for the temple that they pretend to attack. The couple tries to rescue them, and then they get caught. And Jimmy Wang Yu's character is able to escape and tries to go back to the family. But because there's this whole plot from the first movie where the couple had left the family estate, and the rules of the family were if you leave, you're out, and you have to fight us on your way out, even to get out. There's some there's some bitter feeling there. He eventually convinces them to go and rescue her, and they patch things up along the way. And Ivy Ling Po shows up as well as the Scarlet Maiden. And I don't want to give away what happens, but it's a really great. It's a very simple plot. They're basically just trying to rescue Lian Shu, but they do a lot with that. And one of the things I really like about this one is the first one. They had a very interesting temple with a lot of sort of like hidden chambers and things like this. But in this one, they really emphasize the traps, and that's the real scary thing for the heroes in this one is in fact at the very beginning of the movie, like the head monk kind of goes through and says, "Hey, I've renovated, I've set up all these new traps, and I'm going to show all the changes I made to the temple while you guys were out dealing with this couple. So let me run you through all of the this trap and then that trap." And it was kind of nice that he's going over each trap, and you kind of get a sense of how each one works. They don't go over every single trap that the heroes eventually encounter, but they go over some of the important ones. And I thought it was number one. It was great for foreshadowing because it's going to be important later, and it makes the chambers that much more terrifying because you know how these traps work, and you can see by the heroes' actions that they have no idea how these traps work. But also as a game master, I like seeing that. I like getting that sort of inside information on the fortress because it gave me ideas as a GM. So this was I thought this was better than the first one, and at this point in the series, I'm fully invested in the characters. I liked that they focus. I mean, the heroic couple of Gui Wu and Lian Shu, they kind of take a step back in this one. Jimmy Wang Yu has some important moments, and Ching Ping has a few moments, but for the most part, you kind of get more time to see the rest of the family, and I thought that was nice because this is really, at least at this point in the storyline, I don't know what they do in the next film, but at this point, it's really shaping up to be about this entire family. I do think eventually it's going to focus entirely on the couple, but I don't know. It just feels like the whole family is very important, and it's kind of it's a little bit like 14 Amazons in that respect. But but I really liked that they focused on the family. They take time to establish each character as interesting. So it's not like you just have, oh, this is like the sister and she's annoying, and this is the aunt and she's this. They all have traits that can carry scenes. So this before there was Arya Stark, there was Zhao Ling. So the little daughter in this, in the first one, you don't even care about her. In the second one, she's cutting off arms, she's stabbing people in the belly. So I thought that was a pretty interesting turn in the storyline, especially because this is 1965. I've never seen a movie. I'm sure maybe there are movies, but I've never seen a movie this early that has a kid this violent in it. I mean, she's still a normal, nice kid, but she's lopping off limbs. And the grandmother, who I really liked in the first one, you really get to see more of her. And again, she's one of these sort of stern, really rigid grandmothers, but she can really kick butt. And you get to see more of the father. And again, in the first one, throughout the beginning of the, I don't want to spoil anything, but the beginning of the first movie, you kind of get the wrong impression of the father quite deliberately, and then by the end, you get a more complete picture of him. And so in this one, it's nice to see that, now that we've sort of established that, to get it to see him in a new light. And again, you get to see the villains from the first movie, because they all make their way into this one. And I was really impressed. It's really late, so I apologize if I'm rambling, but I was more thrilled with this one than the first one. The first one, entertained me, but this one really, I think they upped the. I think the martial arts were a little bit more impressive. I think that the story was a little bit more engaging. I think it was a little bit by design, because this is obvious. This is meant to follow the first one. They planned this. It's the first one ends a little bit abruptly, and it's quite clear that it's probably going somewhere else. So I'm pretty sure this is something that they, decided early on they were going to make as part of a series. But again, if somebody knows more about it, weigh in. And so I think the first one had to be a little bit, it had to set up a lot of things. It had to get you interested in the characters, and so that pays off big time in this one. I was really impressed with it. I'm really looking forward to watching the third one. The version I got, so this one you can see there's Thai writing on it. I think this is a region 3. I'm not sure, but I had to get this version to get it new. This one's fine. It's Celestial Pictures. The only difference is when you go in and watch it, you're gonna want to make sure you switch off the Thai soundtrack and switch it onto the Mandarin, unless you want to hear the Thai. But the Thai is like a it's like a sounds like an overdub, and if you go and switch it to the Mandarin, you'll get the proper soundtrack, and it has English, Thai, and Chinese subtitles. So the image quality was fine. There were a few moments when the soundtrack got a little weird, but it wasn't like a hiss or anything weird like going in the background. It was more when certain characters were talking, there was just kind of a strange thing going on. But that was very brief. And again, I don't know if that's in all of these, like in any version you get, or just the one I got. But otherwise, it looked fine. I didn't have any problems with it. The colors were all vibrant. The martial arts scenes were great. I really liked I think that it seems like Jimmy Wang Yu is getting more to the level of performance that maybe I'm accustomed to seeing him at. So maybe he's just getting more comfortable in these roles. But I think by the second, and it also could be in the first one he's supposed to be young, and so maybe he was just acting less skillful. But I definitely see big improvement overall in the martial arts in this one, and in the fight choreography in general, and it just felt a little bit more. I don't know. Everything felt a little tighter. And I thought the first one was great, and I thought this was even better. So hopefully the third one really is interesting. The third one is called The Sword and the Lute, and they introduced the lute. I think it's a guzheng or some instrument like that. I'm not quite sure what it was, but it's a weapon. It's not really meant as a musical instrument. It fires out all these horrible little needle hair like things, and so they set that up in this movie, and I'm curious where they take that in the third film. It's also the way that they've introduced the Scarlet Maiden character, where she's kind of starts out like with a brief, she's brief and in the background, and she seems to become increasingly important. I think she'll still stay a background figure of sorts, but she's become more prominent by the end of the second movie. So again, this was great. To me, a lot this has everything that you could need in an evening of entertainment, and it gets a lot of the right notes. It's and it kind of gets a little, there's some, I don't know, like mythic beats to it that I thought really worked. I just kept thinking of Star Wars for some reason when I was watching this, and I don't know why, but I just kept, my mind just kept going to Star Wars. So I feel like there was some undercurrent of something there, and yeah. So I don't know. I do recommend this, and one thing I really like about wuxia films is like in a lot of like Western movies, you kind of like, I mean, not all of them. They're always, there are certain genres where this doesn't happen, but in a lot of Western movies, uh, you, the heroes are safe, and in wuxia, I feel like a lot of them have happy endings, but a lot of them have sad endings too. I think they have more sad endings than we tend to have in some of our films, and so I find that makes them less predictable, and so and therefore a little more exciting, because I don't know if the heroes are going to make it through the whole way, and so that is really at work here. I really didn't know who was going to survive the trap temple, and that really made it exciting. So yeah, so I again I thought this was a great movie. It's got a great cast, and again, this is something that's nice about the earlier wuxia movies. My understanding is that the primary audience for the very early wuxia stuff was women for some reason. I don't know the specifics, but for whatever reason, they were the ones going to see these movies, and so there were usually a lot of women in the cast as well, and so you had a little bit more of an even mix of women and men, and you still have that now, but there's a period in like the 70s where things start off where you kind of have that, and then it becomes mainly sort of male leads, and so one of the nice things about this is it's really got that sort of there's a lot of female characters, a lot of male characters. It's a nice mix, and again, I find that creates an interesting dynamic. I think they are able to bring different things to the table in terms of it's, if you think of wuxia as dance, dance when it's just men or dance when it's just women can be a little more boring than if you have that mixture. So that's why I think wuxia always benefits when you have a little bit more of a balance. And so this is definitely a movie where you get that. Is my point. So anyways, I will be back online soon. I know I've been absent for quite a few days. I've been working on Wandering Heroes of Ogre Gate and trying to get that out the door, and I've had to do some reviews of layout and things of that nature. And I was also just tending to some other things, but it was primarily getting the Wandering Heroes of Ogre Gate stuff sorted out. So this is my first video in about 4 days, I think. So I'm hoping that I'll be doing more at a more regular pace again. And I will talk to you later. Have a great day.